At exactly 10:47 this morning, a former president of the United States was one sentence away from a jail cell. Not metaphorically, not theoretically, literally one sentence. What happened inside that courtroom today has been described by legal experts as one of the most direct challenges to judicial authority in modern American history. And I need you to understand every single moment of it was captured, on record, on camera, in real time. A federal judge looked Donald Trump directly in the eye and said, "Sit down or go to jail." And Trump didn't sit down. What followed was a 12-minute standoff that forced security officers to step forward, lawyers to physically intervene, and the entire American legal system to hold its breath. I've spent the last several hours going through court transcripts, legal analysis, and firsthand accounts from inside that courtroom. And I'm going to walk you through exactly what happened because the details matter more than the headlines. Before I take you inside that courtroom, you need to understand the atmosphere leading up to this moment. For weeks, legal observers had been watching warning signs, not formal court filings, not official motions, just patterns, subtle shifts that experienced court watchers know how to read. Trump has been combative in court before. That's not new. But his combativeness has always followed a certain rhythm, almost a script. Arrive late to generate media attention, mutter comments just loud enough to be overheard, post inflammatory statements during lunch breaks, leave with defiant sound bites for the cameras outside. That's the pattern. That's what everyone expected. But yesterday, the pattern broke. Legal analysts who monitor Trump's court behavior closely noticed the warning signs. Angry posts on Truth Social the night before, last-minute reshuffling of his legal team, additional security personnel arriving early, and most telling of all sudden silence from his attorneys. Here's something I've learned covering these cases. Whenever Donald Trump goes quiet before a court appearance, something is about to explode. Early this morning, courthouse security reported what they described as unusual tension in the defense team's staging area. Emergency strategy sessions that hadn't been scheduled in weeks. The kind of last-minute huddles Trump's legal team only conducts when they're anticipating something volatile. A damaging witness, a surprise ruling, or a client about to go off script. Nobody knew which scenario was unfolding. Some wondered if all three were converging at once. But what court observers did know was this: Trump's demeanor had shifted. And when a criminal defendant changes posture without warning, even by the smallest degree, experienced judges pay very close attention. Judge Engoron was paying attention. Now let me take you inside the courtroom. 10:47 a.m. Eastern Time. Trump is seated at the defense table in his signature Navy suit. The prosecution is questioning a key financial witness. Standard procedure, routine testimony, and then it happened. Trump didn't whisper an objection to his attorney. He didn't pass a note across the table. He spoke out loud, sharp, direct, aimed straight at the witness stand. "That's a complete lie," Trump declared. "A total fabrication. Everyone in this room knows it." The courtroom froze. I want you to picture this scene. Every attorney stopped writing. Every spectator held their breath. Every camera operator in the overflow room leaned forward. Judge Engoron slowly removed his reading glasses. He looked up, and the warning he issued in that moment was not routine. It was not procedural. It was not diplomatic. Legal analysts who reviewed the transcript described the judge's response as swift, unambiguous, and most importantly, backed by the full weight of federal contempt authority. "Mr. Trump," Judge Engoron said, his voice cutting through the silence, "you will not speak unless addressed. You will not interrupt these proceedings. Is that understood?" Now, here's where this story takes a turn that nobody expected. Trump didn't back down. Within seconds of the judge's warning, Trump leaned back in his chair and said loud enough for the court reporter to capture, "This whole thing is a joke, a complete joke." Let me be very clear about what just happened. A defendant in a federal trial just openly mocked a sitting judge on the record immediately after receiving a direct warning. These weren't the words of someone seeking leniency. These were the words of a man testing whether anyone in that room had the power to stop him. Judge Engoron had the power, and he used it. Court transcripts confirm that Judge Engoron issued not one, not two, but three escalating warnings within a span of 4 minutes. The first came after Trump's initial interruption of testimony. The second came after Trump audibly scoffed and muttered, "Kangaroo court," while the prosecutor was speaking. The third came after Trump physically stood up from his chair. "Mr. Trump, sit down immediately," the judge commanded. "Sit down now, or I will have you removed from this courtroom and held in a detention cell for the remainder of today's proceedings." That word detention landed like a thunderclap. Think about what just happened. A federal judge, presiding over an active trial, just told a former president of the United States that he would be placed in a jail cell if he didn't comply. This wasn't a warning anymore. This was a direct, legally binding threat with immediate consequences. Trump's lead attorney, Alina Habba, immediately rose and requested an emergency sidebar. The judge granted it. For 12 minutes, 12 agonizing minutes, lawyers huddled at the bench in urgent, whispered conversation. And during those 12 minutes, Trump remained standing at the defense table, arms crossed, jaw clenched, refusing to sit. When the sidebar concluded, Habba returned to the defense table and leaned close to Trump's ear. Witnesses in the gallery reported she spoke to him in rapid, urgent tones. Trump shook his head. She spoke again, more emphatically. He looked away. Finally, and this detail is critical, she placed a firm hand on his shoulder and said something that made him slowly, reluctantly, lower himself back into his chair. "I need you to understand what just happened." Trump's own legal team had to physically intervene to prevent their client from being hauled to a holding cell in the middle of his own fraud trial. Now let's talk about why Judge Engoron's response was so significant. Because this wasn't just about courtroom decorum, this was about something much larger. Trump's behavior wasn't simply disrespectful, it was destabilizing the entire judicial process. And Judge Engoron, understanding that completely, responded with maximum authority. Not emotionally, not vindictively, judicially. He didn't make empty threats. He didn't defer the confrontation. He cited specific contempt statutes. He referenced specific incarceration precedents. And that precision matters enormously. Former federal prosecutors, speaking with media outlets under condition of anonymity, described Trump's behavior as calculated provocation. They believe it was an attempt to manufacture grounds for a mistrial or appellate reversal. But Judge Engoron demonstrated today that he remains both patient and prepared. His responses weren't just legally sound, they were delivered with such precision that they left absolutely no room for misinterpretation, and critically, no room for appeal. That level of precision tells me something important. This judge anticipated this exact scenario. Judge Engoron isn't presiding passively over these proceedings. He's actively managing a defendant who believes the rules don't apply to him. And here's what most people watching the headlines will miss. You don't command a federal judge's attention easily, but today, Trump managed it and immediately regretted it. Trump has operated for decades under a simple assumption that he can intimidate, outlast, or overwhelm any opposition, that courtrooms, like boardrooms, eventually bend to pressure. But federal judges don't bend. They hold lifetime appointments, they're insulated from political pressure, and they possess something Trump has rarely encountered in his life: real, enforceable authority. Judge Engoron's threat is now permanently enshrined in the official court record. It wasn't designed to embarrass Trump. It was designed to send an unmistakable signal: this courtroom will not tolerate obstruction, intimidation, or theatrical disruption. The judge stated plainly that Trump's conduct was inconsistent with the basic decorum required of all parties appearing in a court of law. Let me translate that formal judicial language into plain English. You are not special. You will follow the same rules as everyone else, or you will face the same consequences as everyone else. You don't typically hear that tone from a sitting federal judge unless something genuinely serious is at stake. Now, here's what I think most coverage is missing. This wasn't an isolated incident. This wasn't a defendant simply losing his composure. Let me show you the full picture of what happened within a single 6-hour window. During the morning session, Trump interrupted sworn testimony and refused direct judicial commands. During the lunch recess, Trump posted multiple direct attacks on the judge via Truth Social. His legal team filed motions formally questioning the judge's impartiality. Outside the courthouse, Trump declared to reporters that the entire trial was a disgrace to everything America stands for. All of this, same day, same 6 hours. When Trump moves multiple pieces simultaneously across multiple fronts, it signals that something much larger is being orchestrated. Legal analysts are now actively considering several alarming possibilities. 1. Trump is deliberately laying groundwork to boycott future court proceedings entirely. 2. Trump is systematically attempting to provoke a mistrial through sustained disruption. 3, and this is the possibility causing the most concern among legal experts. Trump is attempting to manufacture a constitutional crisis by openly defying a direct court order. Now, let me give you some additional context that helps explain Trump's behavior. He is currently under unprecedented legal pressure. His attorneys want him to remain silent and avoid further contempt charges. His political advisors want him to appear strong and defiant for the cameras. His campaign donors want him to seem persecuted and sympathetic. His electoral base wants him to fight back visibly and loudly. Trump is attempting to balance these competing demands while simultaneously facing multiple criminal indictments across multiple jurisdictions. And when defendants in that position make sudden, dramatic moves, they're not operating from strength. They're operating from pressure. They're operating from desperation. They're operating from vulnerability. Today, Judge Engoron decisively removed one option from Trump's playbook. He didn't issue vague warnings. He didn't defer difficult decisions.